afternoon, everybody. It's time for our second science lesson of the week. And today in science, we are going to carry on looking at the similar things what we were looking at yesterday. Can you remember what that key word was that we were looking at? It was habitat. Can you say that? Habitat. So what is a habitat exactly? A habitat is like the home where something lives, isn't it? So it's the area that something lives in. That could be an animal, or it could be a plant, it could even be humans like we are, because we're a type of animal, aren't we? And a habitat is really important to animals and to plants because it provides them with what they need to survive. So if I were a fish, what's the main thing I would need to survive? I would need water to survive. So obviously, a fish would have to live in water because it gets the oxygen that it needs from the water using its gills, okay? So the fish is suited to that habitat because it's got the gills to get the oxygen out of the water. And it's the same as a polar bear. A polar bear has lots of thick fur, so its habitat has got to be somewhere quite, what do you think? It's got to be somewhere quite cold, hasn't it? So the polar bear is suited to its Arctic or polar habitat because of its thick fur and its camouflage as well, isn't it? Because of it having that hollow fur, it can take on the colour of its surroundings very well. Okay, so that's what we were looking at yesterday and thinking about those habitats. And there were 4 habitats that we looked at. Can you remember what those habitats are? We looked at the polar habitat, so that was very cold, very icy. We had the tundra there, didn't we, as well? So not many trees grew. It was just little shrubs, maybe like little lichens and things like that as well, that don't tend to need much to grow. They can grow in really treacherous conditions, okay? We looked at the desert. So in the desert, it was very hot, very warm, very little rain there as well. So anything that lives in the desert needs to be able to store water, doesn't it, as well? Okay. Then we had a look at the woodland. So in a woodland, what was the woodland like? Can you remember? So the woodland was where there were lots and lots of trees that was shading lots of the area, wasn't there, as well, okay? So in that shaded area, the leaves were making sure that not much light was getting through. So anything that lived in there wouldn't need much light. Bearing in mind this for later as well, because it's quite important. And of course, an ocean as well. So when we're looking at the ocean habitat, depending on where things are in the ocean, depends on how much sunlight they might need and different food. So of course, we've got the ocean as well. So in the ocean, think about what things live in there. Obviously, they've got to be sorts of animals which can get oxygen from the water themselves as well, okay? So that's what we were looking at yesterday. We were thinking about what animals lived in which habitats. Now, today we're doing slightly something different. It's quite similar, but it's a little bit different because today, instead of looking at just the animals, we're going to have a little look and see for plants as well, okay? So the first job that I've got for you to do today, I've not got it just on here to show you, but I'll upload it afterwards, is I would like you to have a go outside in your garden or maybe at the park near you, because this time of year is a really, really special time of year because it's coming towards spring, isn't it? And in spring, I was thinking things spring into action. So I think about the plants and how they all start to grow. We start to get little buds growing on trees and we start to see their leaves growing. We start to see little plants coming up at school. We've got some daffodils that have started to grow at the moment. So everything is starting to spring into action. And I have got, just to get your brains all warmed up, I've got a plant hunt that I'd like you to do and see what plants you can find around your local area. Now, you might not be able to find all of these plants because of the time of year, it's still quite early in the season. It's not quite warm enough for some plants to grow yet. So they'll still be staying in their bulbs. They might not have grown yet, but some of them might be springing into action. So it's the first thing I'd like you to have a go at doing. Now, the second thing that we're thinking about is what a plant needs to be able to grow. Because if we're thinking about what habitat these plants live in, remember the habitat must provide the plants with what it needs to grow and to survive, okay? So plants often need sunlight, water, and they need carbon dioxide, don't they, as well, so they can photosynthesize. Oh, that's a tricky word. Should we say that? If I say photosynthesis, you ready? Photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is the process where a plant takes the sunlight and it makes its own food using that sunlight and carbon dioxide. It puts it together to make it into the food that it needs and the sugars that it needs to grow, okay? So I've got a little video on here for you to have a watch of as well, just to see what plants need to grow, okay? Now I'm going to share my screen with you as well, so I can show you the sorts of things that we're going to have a little go at doing today in our science lesson. So like I said, the first thing here, I might have given you a little clue here about what plants need to grow. Okay, with Mr. Heesom's face in the flower, which I thought was very strange. think about what plants need to grow, okay? And there's a video just there that you can watch. Now, I've put some plants down here, okay? Some names of some plants. And I've given you a little description about these plants that tells you a little bit about them, okay? And I want you to be detectives today because I want you to think about if these are what the plants need to grow, these are the conditions that they need to grow in, then where would their habitat be? Where would they be best suited to live? So we've got kelp, okay? And I'm not going to read these all out to you. I'm sure you can read all these, the description for them. So we've got kelp, we've got fern, cacti, lichens, then we've got coral, a thimbleberry bush, which made me laugh, that one, a golden suncup, and we've got shrubs as well. So have a read of the description, use your reading skills, and see if you can use your inference skills as well to match them to the habitat that you think you would find them in. So each one of these you would imagine would live in one of these habitats. They might live in the desert, they might live in the Arctic, they might live in the sea or the ocean, or they might live in a woodland. So if we have a look at one together, let's have a look at the fern to start with. So with fern, it says, ferns grow best under the shade of very tall plants. They don't grow well where there's lots of sunlight. So if we have a look here, we're looking for somewhere that'd be quite shady because they don't like to have lots of sun. They still need some sun. All plants will, well, most plants will need sun to grow, and to photosynthesize, but this one, it doesn't need much at all. So do you think that they'd best suit to the desert, to the sea, to the Arctic, or maybe to the woodland? I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to let you guys work those out for yourself. So see if you can match these different plants to the habitats that you think you would find them in, okay? So just on here as well, what have I put here? Now you've learned about the habitats, see if you can find out what sorts of plants will grow in each of these habitats. So think about what the habitats are, so I've put that in there as well, okay? And once you've completed these activities, you can go on a hunt as well. Now I think actually, although I put you can do the hunt at the end, I think you could do the hunt at the start of your activity as well. So you could go have a little look around your area and see what plants there are in there, okay? And see where they're growing as well. You might spot some of these plants in your areas and you might see that some of those are growing in shady areas, or some of them might need some more sunlight to be able to grow properly, okay? So I hope you get on okay with that, guys. I think it'll be a really, really nice activity and I think you'll enjoy doing this as well, all right? So see you all soon, goodbye.